Oh my God!
I heard gunshots and screaming, and it was all really scary. I was screaming like, "Ah, my leg, help!"
A second grade student called 911 to report a shooting had occurred at school.
We had a call coming in at Abundant Life Christian Church 4901 for Agent 5 and Medic 5 for a shooter that's advising someone was shot. Okay, I'm hearing multiple things, possibly one deceased, maybe 6 people injured, at least 2 shot.
On December 16, 2024, the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, a sanctuary of faith and learning, became the epicenter of a nightmare. By the time the gunfire ended, 2 lives were stolen, 6 more were scarred, and the echoes of grief began reverberating across the nation. Madison police, who quickly arrived at the scene, announced that the primary suspect in the incident had been identified.
We know that the suspect shooter was a teenage student who attended the school.
Hello, and welcome back to our channel, where we shed light on mysterious cases from across the globe. In recent years, school shootings have become a harrowing reality in the West. Yet when the shooter is a teenage girl, it disrupts all expectations and forces us to ask more profound questions. What drives someone so young and so rare in this context to commit such a horrific act? If you still haven't, please hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell below. Now let's dive right into this mystery without any further explanation. Abundant Life Christian School was a beacon of hope for its more than 300 students. A private institution was a place where children learned, grew, and bonded under the guidance of dedicated teachers. The school describes itself as a private, non-profit, non-denominational K-12 institution founded for the purpose of developing disciples of Jesus Christ through an excellent, comprehensive, biblically integrated educational program that is thoroughly Christian in content, context, and practice. Yet on that fateful morning of December 16, 2024, its halls were no longer filled with laughter, but with the deafening silence of grief. It all started in a study hall classroom on the 2nd floor of the school. The room was filled with students from mixed grades. Suddenly, they heard 5 loud bangs. Students from other classrooms joked about the sound being gunshots, but their teachers immediately realized it was real. They instructed the classes to get on the floor, turn off the lights, lock the door, and pull the blinds down. Their fears were quickly confirmed when the principal's voice came over the intercom. "Active shooter. This is not a drill." The announcement was punctuated by another gunshot. Roughly 3 miles away, a group of emergency responders from the local police department was training. They were practicing mass casualty response scenarios, a preparation for tragedies everyone hopes will never become reality. But at 10:57 a.m., that nightmare did come true. A 2nd grade teacher dialed 911 to report an active shooter at the school. According to Police Chief Barnes, a 2nd grade student also made a 911 call, but the boy later retracted some of his statements the following day.
At 10:57 a.m., a 2nd grade student called 911 to report a shooting had occurred at school. Officers were dispatched to the school at 10:57. A deputy with the Dane County Sheriff's Office was the first officer to arrive on the scene at 11 a.m. 24 seconds later, the first Madison police officer arrived on the scene at 11:01 and immediately entered the school.
Inside the school, chaos reigned. The children huddled together in a corner of the classroom, listening to the chaos outside, footsteps pounding and screams echoing through the halls. A teacher stood as a shield between the door and the students, armed only with a pair of scissors, ready to do whatever needed to defend the kids. Barbara Weirs, the director of elementary student relations at Abundant Life Christian School, described the students as clearly terrified during the attack. However, thanks to rigorous training, they handled the situation with remarkable composure.
Officers bravely entered the building as soon as they arrived, not knowing what they were going to encounter. At 11:05, officers inside the school alerted people that the shooter was down and that a gun had been recovered.
The Madison Police Department immediately established a reunification center for parents and guardians, ensuring a safe location for families to reconnect with their children. Simultaneously, the Madison Fire Department was dispatched to the scene. They coordinated with officers already inside the school and played a critical role in providing life-saving aid to victims suffering from gunshot wounds, potentially preventing further loss of life.
I'm feeling a little dismayed now. I'm so close to Christmas. Every child, every person in that building is a victim and will be a victim forever. These types of trauma don't just go away.
The victims were 42-year-old Aaron M. West and 14-year-old Ruby P. Vergara. Aaron West, a devoted educator, had served as a substitute teacher for 3 years before becoming the school's in-house teacher and substitute coordinator. Known for her seamless approach to education, she was admired for her humor, wisdom, and faith. The school described her as embodying the love of Jesus in her service to the community. Ruby Vergara, a freshman and longtime student of the school, was known for her love of art, music, and reading. Ruby was not only a loyal friend, but also a compassionate older sister, bringing the light of her faith into every act of kindness. Ruby, along with Aaron West, were both pronounced dead at the scene. Autopsies conducted by the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed both victims died from gunshot wounds.
3 people, including the shooter, are dead. The shooter has now been identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha.
Natalie Rupnow was pronounced dead later that day at a local hospital. The medical examiner ruled her death as firearm-related trauma, with additional tests underway. 6 others were injured during the attack. 2 students remain in critical condition, while a teacher and 3 students sustained non-life-threatening injuries. 2 of the injured have already been discharged from the hospital. What makes this tragedy stand out, beyond the profound loss, is the unexpected nature of the perpetrator, a teenage girl. It is extremely rare for women to carry out mass shootings. Data generally show men make up more than 95% of perpetrators, while women make up less than 5%. Of 995 mass shootings that the nonprofit Violence Prevention Group tracked between 1966 and 2022, just 4 of the shooting perpetrators were women, and 192 were men. It made Natalie Rupnow's actions in this case highly unusual and raised unsettling questions. Was this an isolated anomaly, or does it hint at something darker? Authorities have confirmed a shocking detail. Natalie Rupnow, just 15 years old, brought 2 firearms to school that day. One 9mm caliber handgun was used in the attack. The second firearm, not discharged, was also found at the scene. Police have remained tight-lipped about the origin of the firearms, citing concerns that revealing this information too soon could compromise the investigation. In Wisconsin, the story of guns and the law is anything but straightforward, especially when it involves minors. On paper, both federal and state laws are clear. Possession of firearms by individuals under 18 is illegal. Additionally, state law prohibits anyone from intentionally selling, loaning, or gifting dangerous weapons to minors. Adults are prohibited from allowing a child under the age of 14 to have access to a loaded firearm. However, like any legal framework, there are footnotes, exceptions that blur the lines between right and wrong. These exceptions allow minors to possess firearms during supervised target shooting or for hunting and military activities, seemingly benign uses that carry significant risks without proper oversight. Somehow, in this case, loopholes in enforcement or lapses in supervision had been taken advantage of. Rules are written to protect, but they are only effective when followed. When they aren't, the consequences can far exceed anything the law anticipated. The immediate question is, how did a 15-year-old gain access to not 1, but 2 firearms? Were they carelessly secured at home, or did she obtain them through more calculated means? Adding to the complexity is Natalie's apparent proficiency with both firearms. How did she achieve such a level of skill at just 15? Was she taught by someone, or did she train herself using online resources or within an environment where exposure to guns was frequent? More importantly, who is Natalie Rupnow?
The shooter has now been identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha. She was a student at the school, and evidence suggests she died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Natalie Lynn Rupnow was born on November 7, 2009, living in the Madison metropolitan area for the entirety of her life. Known to her friends as Samantha, Natalie was just 15 years old when she carried out such an unthinkable act of violence. She fatally shot a teacher and a fellow student, wounded 6 others, and then turned the gun on herself. Her quiet demeanor and young age make the crime all the more shocking. What could drive someone so young to commit such a horrific act? Her parents, Jeffrey and Melissa Rupnow, shared a turbulent history that shaped much of Natalie's upbringing. Married in 2011, they divorced just 3 years later, agreeing to joint custody of Natalie, who primarily lived with her mother. Their brief reconciliation in 2017 ended with another divorce in 2020, leading to an arrangement where Natalie split her time equally between both parents. Though seemingly fair, Natalie felt she never truly belonged anywhere. In 2022, their fractured family dynamic reached a critical point, as custody over Natalie became a contentious issue. At just 15 years old, she was drawn into her parents' disputes, forcing them to seek mediation. In May 2022, Dane County Family Court Services sent a letter requiring both parents to participate in a mandatory parent education program via Zoom to resolve their conflicts. Despite this effort, her mother failed to attend the scheduled sessions, escalating tensions and pushing the parents into a mandatory in-person mediation. Natalie's future hung in the balance. Neighbors described her as shy and distant, often retreating into herself. By July 2022, Jeffrey was awarded primary custody and introduced Natalie to an environment he believed would empower her: shooting. Instead of fostering balance, this environment appeared to isolate her further, fueling dangerous thoughts. What may have seemed like a harmless hobby became a dark obsession for Natalie. Did Jeffrey unknowingly ignite the turmoil in her mind? Did he notice any warning signs? And why was she allowed access to firearms without strict supervision? In August 2022, Jeffrey posted a photo on Facebook that drew attention from friends and acquaintances. In the image, 15-year-old Natalie is seen at a shooting range, intently aiming at clay targets. She wore a black shirt emblazoned with the name of the industrial rock band KMFDM, a seemingly harmless image, but with darker implications. This KMFDM t-shirt was identical to the one Columbine shooter Eric Harris was famously photographed in. Harris, along with Dylan Klebold, carried out the 1999 Columbine High School massacre, killing 13 people before taking their own lives. This connection drew scrutiny not only to the shooters, but also to KMFDM, an industrial rock band from Germany, whose name loosely translates to "No Pity for the Majority." Lyrics from their songs, such as "Son of a Gun," "Stray Bullet," and "Waste," had been found on Eric Harris's personal website, linking the band to the tragedy. Though KMFDM publicly condemned violence, expressed deep sympathy for the victims, and emphasized their anti-war and anti-injustice message, the association remained haunting. Under the photo, a friend of Jeffrey asked if the girl was his daughter. Jeffrey proudly replied, "Absolutely. We joined NBSC this spring and loved every second of it." His enthusiasm reflected the joy he shared with Natalie at the North Bristol Sports Club, a well-known shooting range in Dane County. To Jeffrey, the photo captured a simple, wholesome moment between father and daughter. But for those familiar with KMFDM's unintended link to Columbine, it raised deeper questions. Was this just a coincidence, or was something darker lurking beneath Natalie's growing interest in firearms? Natalie's shirt and apparent fascination with the band might have been mere chance, or perhaps she identified with the tragedy's perpetrators in a deeply misguided way. Her social media accounts, now deactivated or private, offered little insight. However, her final post on X, formerly Twitter, left an eerie trace: a photo of combat boots and a hand making the OK sign, often used by extremist groups. Then came the manifesto, titled "War Against Humanity." It was allegedly penned by Natalie and later circulated online. In it, she expressed a deep hatred for society and referred to her parents as scum. The manifesto was reportedly shared by someone claiming to be Natalie's boyfriend, yet police have not verified its authenticity. The unanswered questions surrounding Natalie's actions are as chilling as the crime itself. What pushed her to this point? What were her motivations? Was this violence a spontaneous eruption of rage, or was it the culmination of a carefully cultivated plan? As investigators continue their work, the truth may reveal a story even darker than we can imagine. Natalie might not be alone. On December 17th, law enforcement searched the home of the shooter's father, seizing computers and personal devices to trace the shooter's digital footprint. The shooter's mother's home was also visited the same day, but neighbors and eyewitnesses reported that no one appeared to be home. Neighbors noted they barely had any interaction with the shooter's mother. Meanwhile, police are combing through the suspected shooter's social media accounts, seeking clues that might help uncover the motive behind the attack. And they found another suspect.
Did the 15-year-old Wisconsin school shooter have an accomplice? A 20-year-old man in California has been detained by the FBI, his guns seized, after authorities say they learned he had been communicating with the student about plotting a murder.
Natalie Rupno had been in contact with Alexander Pfaffendorf, a 20-year-old from California with a history of extremist ideologies and a disturbing online footprint. For months, the two had exchanged messages that painted a troubling picture of their shared descent into violence. In an FBI interview, Pfaffendorf admitted to telling Rupno that he planned to arm himself with weapons and explosives to target a government building, in what he described as an act of defiance. Authorities acted swiftly. A San Diego judge issued a restraining order against Pfaffendorf, requiring him to surrender all firearms and ammunition to the police within 48 hours, and barring him from acquiring more. Carlsbad police, supported by the FBI, searched Pfaffendorf's residence and confiscated several weapons. While Pfaffendorf has not yet faced criminal charges, a court hearing related to the weapons ban is scheduled for January 3, 2025. Pfaffendorf's association with Natalie raises troubling questions about her final months. Her manifesto contained elements suggesting she may have been influenced or even guided by someone either online or in real life. Social media, a fertile ground for misguided ideologies, could have connected her with individuals who encouraged her violent thoughts. Was Pfaffendorf a manipulative figure, exploiting her vulnerability for his own dark purposes? Or was he simply a like-minded individual who fueled her hatred and despair? The truth about their relationship remains as elusive as the motives behind her crime.
I finally got them. And thank God they were safe. But the trauma, it's a lot. Because I'm sure they lost friends and teachers, which is not okay. And I don't think they will be okay for a long time. And I'm not.
These are just the physical injuries that we know about. We know that this was the middle of the day, of a school day, and so there will be other injuries that we'll have to face for a very, very long time.
The Dec 16th shooting at Abundant Life Christian School has shocked the nation, not only for its horror, but for its unique profile. This time, a teenage girl opened fire inside her school, killing a teacher, another student, and apparently herself, and injuring 6 others. While female school shooters are extraordinarily rare, the threads of this tragedy weave into an all-too-familiar pattern. The intersection of unresolved pain, unchecked anger, and the troubling ease of access to deadly weapons. The legal system in Wisconsin has faced sharp criticism following this tragedy. Laws prohibiting minors from accessing firearms were clearly not enforced, exposing gaps in oversight and firearm safety education that contributed to this devastating outcome. This incident is not only a personal tragedy for Natalie and her family, but also a deep wound for the community. Witnesses are left grappling with fear and trauma that will haunt them for years. For the media, reporting on this story comes with the grave responsibility of ensuring that it does not become a misguided source of inspiration for others. The statistics are staggering. In 2024 alone, the United States endured 112 school shootings, where lives were lost or irreversibly changed. This unrelenting trend casts a harsh light on the fragility of youth and the grave dangers posed by firearms that too often fall into the wrong hands. Natalie's case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Are we truly doing enough to identify and support vulnerable young people before their pain turns into violence? How do we intervene before anger festers into tragedy? And perhaps most importantly, how do we create a future where such devastating acts are no longer part of our reality? Every tragedy carries lessons, if only we choose to listen. The question now is, will we? What do you think about the case? Please let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.